So you're all very welcome to the first Around Business podcast. This is the first in the series whereby we'll be bringing on guests and finding out in terms of everything about them, in terms of what led them to setting up their business and finding out what they do and how they do. And today's guest is as I'm very happy to welcome Paul Walsh from Adhere Digital. So thank you very much for coming along to the inaugural Around Business podcast webinar thing.
Thank you very much.
So you're Paul, I should introduce you first. Paul's a mate, and he also owns a business called Adhere Digital, which is a performance marketing agency here in Galway City. And I suppose as an accountant, I've been working with e-commerce businesses for 10 years. I've also worked with marketing agencies for about the same length of time. So for many years, I would have been treading carefully when it came to engaging with digital marketeers. I suppose what I've seen in the last 10 years is just the skill sets into profession are now going off the charts. And when I met you first, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about you is that you came from this performance marketing background. So we probably first met in 2016, 17,
19, was it?
You could be right. It could be 2018 or 19, something like that. Yeah. So 2018, 19. And then we had these great chats about what you did and your experience in London. So I suppose that's one of the things that I found most interesting about you is it's your focus on performance marketing. So I suppose first thing I'd be interested in hearing more about would be tell me a little bit about yourself and where did you get that grounding in doing what you do, and how would you describe what you do?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. No. Again, thanks very much for having me. So performance marketing. Those, I suppose, people that don't know, it's marketing. It's digital marketing, but using large data sets and strong signals around, conversions. There might be transactions, or there might be lead form generation or calls. It's measuring all those signals and using that data to optimize campaigns towards. I suppose is probably the basic explanation of it. So. Yeah, just using data to optimize campaigns. It's different from traditional media. So, for example, in today's day and age with digital marketing, we can see how many people's viewed an ad. We can see who's clicked it. We can see what device, the gender. You can get really granular detail. Whereas I suppose traditional marketing, you have a billboard up at the side of the road. You have no idea who's seen it. You never mind who's bought from it. So the thing that I loved most about performance marketing was, I suppose, how you could actually get such a good insight into the consumer behavior and understand how do we actually leverage this, or I suppose, for lack of a better word, manipulate it to get more sales out of that data. So I got into it. So it's just a little bit about my background. I did marketing in college. I then came out of college around 2013. Probably a very tough time. The Irish economy still hadn't quite picked up yet. You're looking at a lot of job bridge schemes at the time. So
I remember job bridge.
For anyone that doesn't know what job bridge scheme is, basically slavery from the years 2008 to 2015, I think it was. So I got a job at a marketing agency in Galway for about 6 months, worked for free for 6 months. Turns out that digital marketing agency in Galway that I worked for didn't really do a whole pile of digital. So I learned absolutely nothing and earned zero. So it was, a bit of a frustrating experience, because when I was in college, I was very, very interested in the digital side, the SEO, the PPC. But unfortunately, my first experience was a little bit rough. So I think over the course of towards the end of that, I suppose that internship, I met a guy on a stag do, as most good conversations
most good
goes.
Career opportunities.
Yeah, he's a Glaswegian, Paul Henderson's his name, and he we were chatting about marketing, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm working in a marketing agency, but it's not really digital. He's like, "Well, we do digital." And he worked in an agency called Zenith Optimedia, so one of a huge, large global agency. And he was like, "Look, we're crying out for people in digital. You'd have to start kind of at the bottom and work your way up or whatever, but at least, apply for a role anyway." So applied for a role, got an interview, did a test, I think, as well as part of the introduction or as part of the interview process. And then, I got called a few weeks later, and I sold up and I moved to London. I was like, I just knew deep down that, you know, it was a humongous agency. I'm going to learn from the best, and they're doing exactly what I want to do, which is performance marketing. So very, very lucky in the sense that...
What year was that?
That was, what, 2012, 2013, sorry, in around that time. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And interestingly, yeah, I got to work with, you know, what I would see as, you know, geniuses, being quite blunt about it. But sorry, I got to work with data scientists. I got to work with people who specialize in machine learning. Then I was working on clients like Qantas Airlines, Aviva, who else was working on Toyota, Lexus, a couple of those large global brands. And I found it fascinating, the amount that goes into these campaigns. It's not just, you know, set up a campaign and hope for the best. Everything is so meticulously planned out, from the keywords to the tracking to, you know, who your audience is. And I got to learn from I would say some of the best people in the industry. Some of those people have gone on to do great things. You know, some of them are writing books on behavioral science. Some of them are you know, set up their own agencies. So I was quite fortunate to work with a great team in Zenith Optimedia.
And how many years did you spend working in Zenith, or did you stick around? Or
I was there for a few years. I can't remember how many years in total. What was it, 2 or 3 years? Wasn't that long of a career, but around that time I got headhunted by a smaller independent agency.
Okay.
And I suppose
that's Passion, is it?
Yeah, Passion Digital. So I suppose, for me, deep down, I always knew I wanted to start a business, and an agency was something that was very, I thought that was something that I'd like to start. But I just thought I need to work in different types of agencies. So I need to work in a big agency to understand, I suppose, the processes and the bigger operational things. But I still felt like I really need to work in a smaller agency to get a better handle of day-to-day stuff, and maybe, you know, spread my knowledge base a little bit wider. So in terms of what I'm learning now, you know, you wear loads of hats in a smaller business, rather in a larger organization or an agency, you just focus or drill down to one thing. So so I worked in a smaller agency, and it was interesting. So I went from managing, say, monthly budgets of 10 or 12 million pound a month to maybe now managing budgets of 10 or 50 grand a month. So It was a huge change. And it's interesting, and I'm, you know, not disregarding the big agency, because it's, you know, you learn loads and you've got loads of money to play around with, but you're less accountable. And the results, you know, you're still there to drive results, but it's so much harder to squeeze performance out of 50 grand than it is, you know, 15 million. You know,
a much smaller business, with a limited budget,
and every penny counts. Whereas, you know, the bigger brands and bigger organizations, they had huge budgets that they could just dump, and it's not good experience, by the way. But I think I became a far better marketeer learning to spend it with smaller budgets and learning to get the absolute most out of them.
And I presume that the clients then would have been like a smaller profile of clients. So I presume in the bigger agencies, you know, it's a whole team of marketing people that's the client, whereas in the smaller agencies, there's somebody watching what you're doing like a hawk. They're kind of, it's a more engaged relationship with the client and so on. But in terms of like the types of clients you worked in there, like what typical industries would it have been in terms of the work that you did in Passion?
Oh, it varied quite a lot. I think they originally started off doing charities, actually. So they started working with charities, and they worked with a couple of different, I could be wrong on this, couple of different, you know, fashion brands, and a couple of different, I think they worked with a lot of real estate businesses in London as well, which was, you know, which was good. And yeah, again, it was so diverse. And you went from, say, managing 5 large clients to maybe 15 small clients.
Okay, yeah.
So you really have to kind of up your game again in terms of, you know, I mean, the big agencies, you had the luxury of having loads of account managers, project managers, everything. And then you go into the smaller agency, and you are the everything. You are the implementation person. You're the guy building out the campaigns. You're optimizing the campaigns. You're the client manager. You're the account manager. You're everything. So
leaving out the wheelie bins on Tuesday night.
Pretty much, yeah. Washing the windows if it needs to be done. But
it's the joys of a small business environment, you know.
But I loved it, and again, the both of those experiences were invaluable to me. I learned a huge amount. Like I said, big organization, you learn loads about, you know, the processes and the bigger picture things, and it was eye-opening. But definitely, if you want to become a better marketeer, try and get return and revenue and results out of smaller budgets, and that's where you really fine-tune your skills. And I think, I think that did a great job for me.
And so you mentioned there that you had a taste for, you know, or the idea was probably in the back of your mind that at some stage you were going to take the leap off the cliff and set up your own business. So how did you end up back in Galway trying to set up a marketing agency on the west coast of Ireland, renting a co-working space across from me in 2018? It's a good question. I mean, I think when I was initially in London, I thought, you know, I'd be there forever, long term. I thought if I was going to set up a business, it would be there. Oh, you were going to do something in London, weren't you?
I actually did set up a business in London.
All right, okay.
Briefly.
Did you have the name?
We don't
at that
talk
stage?
about that.
Did you have the name at that stage?
We did. So actually, while I was in Passion Digital, I did myself and one of my friends in the agency decided, look, we'll both have an interest in digital marketing. We both always kind of wanted our things as well, and we said, look, we do a little bit of freelance on the side. It was just like a little side gig. So we were moonlighting, I suppose, in that role, and we set up a business called Moonlight Digital, and
outside the terms of your employment contract, I presume.
Yeah.
All right.
But it was, look, it wasn't. It didn't really go very far.
Okay.
But it was a good insight into setting up business and how to set up a business and how to set up a website and get yourself registered and all that kind of thing. But ultimately, it didn't go very far. But again, just a good learn lesson. I said, I learned maybe that, I suppose it was myself and a friend, and I suppose we'd probably similar skills. We probably should have had more complementary skills, you know.
Yeah.
So it just didn't work out. But anyways, I was still hungry to set up my own agency. But at the time, my girlfriend was based in Galway. We're doing long distance. I was backing over quite a bit. So I eventually said, look, I'll move back to Galway, and kind of bypass the whole long distance thing. It was quite difficult. So
I ended up back in Galway for the exact same reason.
You did as well. Okay, fair. Yeah. So a lady brought me back to Galway. So
tell me, like, what was your motivation when you sat down and you said, okay, I'm going to do this thing? Maybe you had a taste of doing something with a co-founder, and you said, okay, next time I'm going to do it as a solo entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, what was the idea behind setting up Adhere Digital?
Yeah. So initially, when I moved back to Galway, I said, this will be something, again, I'll do it as a side gig. I'll get a job and I'll do it as a side gig. Now, when I did come back to Galway, I was looking at the marketing jobs and the opportunities, and to be honest, there was really nothing really there that kind of excited me. There was a few places I actually did do interviews for, but ultimately, wasn't really for me. And actually, it transpires one of those businesses that did interview me, they turned out to be one of our bigger clients at the start of the business.
Okay.
I caught up with them later on down the road, and I was like, do you want to, I'll sell you my services, but
nicely done.
For more money. Ultimately, the intention was to set up a performance marketing agency in Galway. I had spoken to a few friends, and I was like, do you know what? I'll go freelance. I can't get a job here. I'll just go freelance. And one of my friends in the UK, in London, that I worked with on the Aviva UK account, basically contacted me. He had moved back to Ireland a year or two before me, and he goes, 123.ie are looking for someone, you ran big accounts on insurance. Would you be, what do you think? And he gave me an introduction, and they were my first client.
I remember that actually.
Yeah, they interestingly were for first client, and you know, 123.ie, especially for you know, a kind of a one man band
I was blown away.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
it was a great client to land
Straight out of the gates.
Yeah.
Fair play to you, Paul. You know.
Yeah, no, it was good. And then, to be fair, we kind of, I suppose, used their name, I suppose, to help me get a few more clients. And then 6 months, I think it was 12 months in, we had 5 clients, I think. So it wasn't, you know, obviously you have different sizes, but it was kind of getting to a stage where I need help, and it was getting a little bit busier. And I said, I don't think I'm going to be a freelancer anymore. I think this is going to be an agency now. And I decided to employ my first employee, who was Connor Daly. And yeah, he's in London he's in Croatia now, but yeah.
Working for a London agency.
But so when Connor came along, it was fantastic. It was, I suppose he came from an insurance background and then went into performance marketing, and he, I think it was interesting. I think that he tells me now, I hope you won't mind me saying this, he's like, geez, the first fucking few weeks I was in the toilet Googling everything. I didn't know what you were talking about, but I tell you what, he came on leaps and bounds. And,
he had the client services bit. He was
brilliant.
Excellent communicator.
Very good communicator. So, and then we started getting more clients in, building out the team, got an office here in Galway, and then kind of snowballed from there. And
where are you at now? So where is Adhere Digital at the moment? And like, what types of clients are you servicing? You know, tell me a bit more about.
So, in terms of the size of the business, we're not humongous. We're still 10 people now. We are looking to recruit a few more. We're hoping to have maybe 12, 13 by the end of the year. In terms of kind of the breakdown of the client, interestingly, when we started the business, we're getting very much lead generation clients.
Yeah.
COVID happened. We lost a lot of hospitality, travel, tourism clients overnight. Then we pivoted, as all good businesses do, towards
lead generation. Means big B2B corporates are just looking to kind of build brand awareness and get people to the website.
Exactly. It's more about calls, inquiry forms, as opposed to with e-commerce, it's very much driving transactions and revenue and sales, that kind of thing. So we went from a 70% lead gen to 30% e-commerce. Within 12 months, we went from 70% e-commerce to 30% lead gen. So it was quite the U-turn, and we kind of had to
probably
shift.
Coincided with the good old COVID years where everybody
Absolutely.
Online.
So of course, so it was the COVID years that kind of accelerated that massively, and I think the government was really pushing brands and to get online, and I just found it crazy that there was some large Irish brands that still were not online, and I was like, and I think, and then without getting too critical about it, I know I've said it a few times, at different talks, but Ireland is still behind when it comes to digital marketing. In fairness, COVID did speed up things a little bit. It kicked us up the arse a bit, but I'd say we were 5 years behind when I came back here. We're probably around 3 years behind now.
In terms of what you see as normal practices in digital marketing,
in agencies across, say, London and New York, and I suppose the sort of the bigger global agencies. So I suppose that early days gave me the confidence to be like, wow, okay, so everyone here is doing things that is quite archaic and outdated. And I think that's where I really got my confidence to build the agency and keep going with it. I think it was, I kind of, to your point at the beginning of it, you even, and this is the thing that I hate. I'm a marketing professional. I take my job quite serious, and I'd like to be considered with other professions. However, one thing that's quite evident from talking to clients and speaking to new business and you're getting about 30 minutes of the first call is, this agency did that to me, the marketing people, just bad habits, bad practices, they took our money and we didn't get any results. And, I quickly, I suppose, found out early days of the agency that the standard here is poor, and it's quite shameful, to be honest with you. And, one of the things in the UK that is quite good, you have to do a lot of examinations, and you have to do things like, there's bodies like the Institute of Practitioner of Advertising. You have to pass exams. You have to do like proper examinations before you're given over 10 million a month to spend. Whereas in Ireland it was very much, and what I've seen a lot of is. And there's very good agencies in Ireland too. I'm not discounting that, but for the most part, there's a lot of agencies that are, they might have looked up a couple of YouTube videos and then they're setting up an agency. The entry level to set up an agency is so low. You need a laptop and you need skills, but to build a great agency is a very different story, and it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of processes and a lot of operational stuff, and have the right people in the right position all the time, and so in terms of I suppose, yeah,
what I would have seen, I think, I will say that I suppose as marketing has evolved, each area of marketing has become so deeply technical.
Yeah,
like it's hard to be great at content and also hard to be great at Google Ads. So it's about getting people who've got skill sets in those areas and supporting them so that and it's evolving so quickly. So you have to support and train people so that they remain up to speed. Yeah. So just in terms of the type of work that you're doing with the e-commerce clients in particular, what are you seeing happening in terms of like a client comes to you, they've had, maybe they're disappointed with the performance of a previous agency, or they're looking at Adhere Digital, they've heard about you guys. Like, can you point to what are typical things that you might see with a new client coming in the door in terms of things that could be improved, or what are the major hotspots that you look at and go, okay, we think we can do better?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair question. So when we're looking at new clients, we'll take a look at their accounts. We'll see how things are set up. We'll get access to things like their analytics, their tracking. If there is tracking, if there's not already, you're probably going to have terrible results. So the first thing, I suppose the thing that we see a lot of the time is tracking is broke, or tracking is not set up correctly, or there's not, the campaigns can be outdated. They can be using stuff that maybe hasn't been used properly in 2 or 3 years, and those campaigns are still live, and it's this lack of attention to detail. And there's a lot of businesses out there that think, oh, you just set it up and you let it run, and there you go. I had speaking of audited account, we had one client that came to us who didn't know his Google Ads account was on for a number of years, and he had spent 50,000 and generated zero. Tracking is the number one issue we see with accounts, and not setting up tracking correctly.
And did that change when Google 4 or what was it?
GA4, Google Analytics 4, yeah. So Google Analytics 4 has replaced Universal Analytics. Universal Analytics was around since, I think, for about 20 years. Now that we're moving away from, I suppose, third-party cookies, GA4 is Google's answer to kind of get around some of that. It's not a very, well, I suppose it's early days. It's only, I suppose, rolled out in the last year or so, but there's a lot of discrepancies within it, and we're still,
in terms of where the data is coming from.
Yeah, the data is usually off by about 10 to 20% in different cases in comparative to the back end of e-commerce websites. So, and by the way, that's not for every GA4 account, but for a lot of our clients.
What do you mean off by 20%? Is in measuring visitors?
Measuring revenue. So revenue and sales could be anywhere between 10 and 20% off. And,
really? When you're logged in on the Google platform and you're looking at what the sales are, sales that Google is telling you could be off by 20%.
Yeah.
And then that's when you log in on the e-commerce website, there's a different number.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is the attribution problem.
Yeah. So attribution, privacy policies, people not updating cookies correctly. There's a lot that goes into websites losing a lot of traffic. One of the things I think that Ireland is very unprepared for right now is, that whole moving from third-party data to first-party data. So that's basically moving away from cookies and your data being, distributed to different advertising platforms, for different things, to more of first-party data. So you own your own data. You build out your own server. That data, it goes directly to your server and not through a third-party entity. So there's not enough businesses right now doing that. And that's a lot of things that we see wrong with clients. And, if you can get your server-side tracking in place and get it done properly, you'll see an uplift in the conversions you're measuring and the overall conversion rates. Everything goes up. And that is vitally important because your campaign's output is only as good as the input. So if your campaigns are using a lot of machine learning and they're optimizing towards sales and revenue, if you're not giving them that data, or if you're missing 20% of that data, your campaigns are just not as effective as competitors. And that's something that we see a lot. So people not having, the tracking infrastructure up to date. Businesses are kind of spending money and they're not really know where it's going. And for us, that's the first thing we do. We don't put anything live without building out quite a robust tracking infrastructure first.
That's kind of interesting. I probably go back to what I said, is that, for me, I think that each area of marketing has become so deeply technical, and that's just tracking. So within kind of paid advertising, there'll be somebody who might be amazing at building ad accounts and kind of keyword analysis and all that stuff. But then, like, to be really amazing at tracking is almost a whole different side. It's a whole different level of technical skill set. What are scripts? I've heard you talk about scripts.
Scripts a few times.
I've listened to you talking about scripts a few times, and I don't know. I kind of have an idea what they are, but I don't know what they are. So.
So the advertising platforms like Google and Meta obviously rely heavily on the amount of money they generate for businesses. So right now, Google, Facebook, other advertising platforms are, I suppose, over calculating their returns. So
back to attribution.
So the results are a lot of the time inflated. So you could have Google ads made 50 grand revenue, Facebook ads made 50 grand revenue. You go to the back end of the store, the business only made 80 grand. So who's lying? There's
and should you spend more money on Google or more
exactly.
money
and that's kind of what they're kind of competing over. So with advertising platforms over inflating figures, it's important to try and look at other ways to extract information, because ultimately, it's their business model. The more money they generate, the more money they make. So what we do to try, within campaigns now, in digital marketing campaigns, a lot of data is hidden, and a lot of data is hidden for probably good reason. There's probably, if you got every little piece of information in a Google or Meta campaign, you would probably pull back budgets quite quickly. You might not spend as much as Google or Facebook would like. So with scripts, and not just scripts, scripts are little pieces of code that we put into the ad platforms that will, I suppose, tell us exactly what's going on underneath and give us more insights into what's working and what's not working. So when it comes to our clients, we can be more calculate, and we can be more precise where we're spending our money, and we can save clients quite a bit of money. The advertising platforms are, they want you to kind of set everything up, have it all housed, but it's and not actually see data where we're trying to extract as much of that to make more informed decisions.
So what I'm seeing, and the narrative I've been listening to for the last, I think, since post-COVID. So my kind of story of the e-commerce kind of space, and you can push back on this and tell me I'm wrong, is that there was, I think there was like the gold rush days that existed pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then it was pre-COVID really that, GDPR came in, things were still kind of rocking and rolling quite good, but some of the ROAS started dipping on kind of Facebook in some ways. But then we had this COVID period whereby everything just multiplied by any amount. In most e-commerce environments, people were making any amounts of money with just ridiculous ROAS and return on ad spends. And then there's been this post-COVID settling, and there's a number of headwinds there that need to be considered, and you've mentioned a couple of them yourselves. Number one, any of those big retailers that didn't have a website suddenly got geared up for online. So they're now coming into the space and competing for traffic. The growth of platforms, like all sorts of platforms, Amazon's a big one, but there's a bunch more in every space, from beauty fashion and so on. I think there is, like, in terms of targeting, in terms of you having access to data to target people, that's been restricted across all platforms. And then there's just basic demographics in terms of, you know, the cohort that's on Facebook versus kind of different social media platforms. So it's become a bit more of a fight for advertisers in an e-commerce environment to make the easy money that was made in the gold rush days. And I suppose my question is, would you agree with that assessment? And what do you think?
It depends. I don't agree. Well, I don't agree fully, because when I'm looking at our client base now, some of those have doubled, trebled what they've made in those COVID years. So for me, it's like, well, you know, the businesses that continued to invest in their website, in digital marketing, in their data, in their whole, suppose, performance marketing ecosystem, they're the ones that are thriving now. It's the people that said, do you know what, let's leave it as it is, and, you know, let's not spend any more on this or do any, you know, invest any more. No, sure, the website's great, it's doing great. Those people fell off a cliff because they realized the COVID was such an inflated market. Everyone, you know, people could only buy online, and everyone was buying everything online. Conversion rates on websites were through the roof. Websites that weren't even getting much traffic were finally getting traffic because there was just so many people online. But you
didn't have to be technically good. Like the way I described it was like,
every
night was a winning night at the casino. Like all you do is pull down the lever and you'd get 3 apples. And you probably never said, like, on your first time opening up a Facebook account, all you had to do is just throw money at it and you'd get ridiculous return on ad spends. And now now that has disappeared. It's come back to kind of, for me, there's a bunch of, like, old school business skills apply in terms of, like, do you know your customer? Does your product have an added value? Do you know how to communicate to your customer? And then it's back to, like, hard technical skills in especially in the digital space in relation to performance marketing. So I think it's knocked a lot of sense into the space.
Oh, 100%. And I guess the e-commerce market was so immature here that as the e-commerce market is maturing, businesses can't lie on their laurels anymore. They have to get more technical, and they have to embrace, you know, what every other country in the world is doing, you know, doing the brand, performance marketing, tracking, all those kind of things. So, so Ireland was it was one of those weird spaces where we were a couple of years behind the fold in terms of the e-commerce landscape, and anyone that had a website did well. That is not the norm. You know, your website essentially it does not exist until you start driving traffic towards your website. It's your footfall. So what we do, and what we explain to a lot of retailers at the time, is we're replacing footfall with clicks. Clicks are footfall. So, right, how many people are coming into your shop a month? 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it might be. That's what we can do online. And businesses, I suppose, naively, you know, thought, you know, the COVID days, oh, this is great, my website's working, it's brilliant. When all that footfall fell off the cliff, they didn't have other channels to drive that traffic to the websites. And that's, a lot of businesses came to us saying after, and it was like, right, our website's fallen off a cliff. And I was like, well, look, these are all the other options we can bring targeted traffic to your website. So Google Ads, using keywords, targeting people based on interest, time of day, using, you know, meta ads. You know, is this client right for Instagram? Is it right for Facebook? You know, a lot of people are using TikTok ads now with us. So trying to find, and each client is very, very different, and stuff that'll work with one client won't work with another, even if they're similar industries or businesses. So I suppose the businesses that are continuing to invest in digital they're the ones that are reaping the benefits. And I see, because we're still a couple of years behind when it comes to e-commerce, I see it as a massive opportunity.
It's a massive opportunity. It's a massive opportunity for marketeers like yourself that have, like, hard technical skills when it comes to the paid advertising space. I think the other thing that I'm very thankful to is that I haven't seen a YouTube video of some guy on a paddleboard trying to sell me his 0 to 1 million code. And all I have to do is to sign up. So all the guys on paddleboards selling courses of how to make $1 million in some website, they've all disappeared quite quickly over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's back to kind of, it's back to, like, if you want to be, there's a lot of people that are being quite successful online, but if you do want to be successful in an e-commerce environment, you have to make the right investment and have the right infrastructure and have the right supports in place. And you got to have the right product for the right customer as well, fundamentally as well.
100%. And yeah, a lot of those people that, were showing all their lovely revenue, 5 million a month, 10 million a month revenue.
I know a couple of them.
But those businesses, again,
well, let's say if they got out at the right time, more luck to them. But I don't think a lot of those businesses would still be around today in this kind of new e-commerce world where it's a different type of an engagement to be successful. I think that's for sure. Just in terms of in terms of where you're at right now, and in terms of when you look at Adhere Digital and your success to date, like in your mind's eye, like where do you think you're going to be in 12 months or 2-3 years time, or what's the big vision for Adhere Digital?
Yeah, so I suppose when it comes to service offering, we're probably going to expand that.
Sure.
So I suppose we do an awful lot of paid advertising. We're probably going to go more into, not more into, but we'll add other services like programmatic services and might look at more tracking services and data services for clients. I do think, as I suppose AI has changed things, and a lot of the I suppose campaigns and stuff can be streamlined quicker now than they were previously. So in terms of where I see us, I see us as a marketing agency. I see digital marketers in general are going to have to be a little bit more well-rounded. And I see us of being, I suppose, a well-rounded agency to give advice to our clients. So our clients, I think, the modern marketer now is not just creative. They also have to be technical. They also have to know finance. They have to understand average order value, margins, returns, and I think as the setup and campaign setup and that kind of thing becomes a little bit quicker with AI, I think the real value of agencies going forward will be an overall business consultancy, really, and using, I suppose, the large data at our fingertips to provide clients with meaningful insights that they just don't have time themselves to divulge and explore. So I think, Adhere Digital next 5 years, I can continue to grow the team, service offering, and in terms of how we work with businesses, we're very much going to be involved with the insights and informing how they're going to scale further and make better and smarter decisions. And I think that ultimately is invaluable for businesses.
Onwards and upwards. It's also been really interesting, the amount of businesses that suddenly started picking up the phone to their accountant when profits started getting squeezed in e-commerce channels, and it's been really interesting. It's a slightly strange thing to sit down and have a conversation with you that I'd be having anyway. In a non-work environment, but I suppose it's been great to watch a friend and a client be as successful as you've been. If there's other kind of people out there that are getting started in business and are wondering what are the things that contributed to you getting to where you are today, do you have any kind of words of advice for people just trying to grow their business and trying to build their agency?
Absolutely. I suppose one of the things with an agency, one of the things with running a business, I suppose it helps if you don't have a safety net. You really have to go all in for it. But when you run a business, I think it really humbles you, and it shines a light in your face of the things you're not good at very quickly. And you can spend time learning certain things, and some things you can learn, and some things you probably, is it your best time spent learning that? I don't think so. So I suppose before I met you, I know I had an accountancy agency here in Galway. I won't name names, but I thought the accountancy practice was actually making my life a lot more difficult than it needed to be. It was very archaic, very outdated, receipts in a shoebox type vibes. and I suppose one of the things, like, quite grateful for around finance for coming in. You guys came in and you pretty much automated everything that we do, and now I get such value of meeting up with you on a monthly or quarterly basis and going down and looking through the figures and the numbers and the forecasts and the projections. And I think, that's been invaluable. And it's something that, even though in college I did all right in accounting, I still don't think, when it comes to that side of things, it was knowing my weakness or understanding where I needed help with. And I suppose from the around team has been fantastic, from, setting the ship in terms of the automation, but also helping with scale it. And I think it's very important for agencies, if people do want to set up an agency, is to have forecasts, have projections, have goals, have targets. Otherwise, you're not motivated. You're not thinking, I suppose, commercially, and you can often get a little bit lost. And I feel like in the early days, I got a little bit lost, maybe with none of that proper guidance. So ultimately, I think, get a good accountant. Essentially, it will.
Click the link below.
No, but that was for me. And then another one thing that I probably should have done a bit sooner, but again, hindsight's great, is operationally, maybe that was something I neglected for quite a bit of time. Luckily this year we're working with Ross from FlexOps. He's doing a really good job, and he's helping with the process and streamlining things. So I would say, starting a business, know exactly what you're good at, and you will find out exactly what you're bad at very fucking quick.
Too long.
It'll be a quick turnaround, and then making sure that you're spending the time in the right places to get the most value and the most impact for your business. And everything else that you're not an expert in, as soon as you can, and when means become available, try and work with a partner.
Well, Paul, all that's left for me to do is to say thank you so much for coming in and sitting down with me today. It's been a real pleasure. And it's been great to watch a friend and a client succeed in the way you are. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Richie. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right.